Okay, Sam Knott here with our second question, actually question number 3, and it's just asking about the muscles involved with each movement of the hand, wrist joints. So right now we're going to focus on flexion, so just go ahead, you've got extension, flexion, this hand. So he's flexing 6 different muscles, so you've got the second and third metacarpals right here. And it's you've got the flexor carpi radialis, which is attaching at the medial epicondyle, so coming up and across, medial epicondyle, so that's helping with flexion. You've got the palmaris longus, which is said it's absent in either one or both forearms in some people. So it's difficult to palpate, but it almost takes the same pattern, except it's attaching at the second, third, fourth, and fifth metacarpal. So it's attaching, coming together, and then nearly making the same pattern and attaching at the medial epicondyle as well. So it's almost doing the exact same thing. You've got the flexor carpi radialis. So attaching at the fifth and coming right along the side. That one's pretty easy to see. And it's attaching at the medial epicondyle as well. You've got the extensor flexor digitorum superficialis. This one's a pretty broad muscle, but it's attaching at 4 fingers, all 4, 1, 2, 3, no, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it's coming down. Going all the way up pretty much to where the radius and the ulna come back together, and then it's coming over and it's attaching at the medial epicondyle, so it almost comes up and then dives over. But it's also, it's a pretty depressed area. It says it's between the palmaris longus and the flexor carpi ulnaris, so go ahead and flex up. So its pattern is just going to be right up in here. Difficult to kind of distinguish between all of them. But yeah, so that's the general pattern of it. Flexor digitorum profundus. Let's see. So it's almost identical to the flexor digitorum superficialis. And it says it's difficult to distinguish. It's deep to the flexor digitorum. Attaching at 2, 3, 4, and 5. Coming up and attaching at the proximal 3/4 of the anterior medial ulna. So it's attaching just below, so go ahead and flex. It's not attaching up here, but it's attaching right here. So it's deep, it's underneath there, but that's the general pattern that it makes, coming down and attaching about right there. We've got flexor pollicis longus, and this one is the thumb. So if you flex the wrist and flex the thumb, so flex the thumbs like that, and flexing the wrist. Yeah. So this one, almost again about the same pattern. It's not attaching at the medial, but it's still attaching lower on the ulna, and so pretty much just going down from the first, coming across, and attaching somewhere down here. So that takes care of the flexor muscles. We'll do the extensors, and then we'll make a different video. Oh. Okay, so extensor muscles. You've got, we'll start off with the extensor carpi ulnaris. So we'll work on this hand. So he's extending. Starts at the fifth and comes across to the, actually it almost just goes straight up. So if he's flexing fifth, and it's coming up and across and attaching right here at the lateral epicondyle. We've got the extensor carpi radialis brevis muscle, which is attaching at the base of the third. So 1, 2, 3. The base, and it's attaching also at the lateral epicondyle. So if he flexes, it's going to come up, and it's going to be almost the same general pattern, attaching right here at the lateral epicondyle. down to the third. You've got the extensor carpi radialis longus. This one is generally more to the outside of the arm. So if he's extending and it's attaching at the base of the second dorsal side and attaching just at the supracondylar ridge of the lateral epicondyle. So it's coming up, you can actually feel that coming up, and it's attaching right up here. You've got the extensor digitorum muscles, so attaching at all four of the digits and coming up, and again attaching at the lateral epicondyle, so branching together and coming up and attaching right here. It's a fairly big muscle, so that's probably it right there. Extensor indicis muscle comes all the way down to the base of the middle, the second phalange, and it comes up, so you can go ahead and extend the wrist and extend the second, and so it's coming and attaching right at between the middle distal and distal 1/3 of the posterior ulna, so about right here. Extensor digit minimi. Let's see how far that. Okay. I'll go ahead and do these real quick. So extensor digit minimi, fifth phalange coming up and across, and again attaching at the medial. So flexing both of them, coming up and attaching at the lateral epicondyle. You've got the extensor pollicis longus, which we described earlier. If he's extending and extending the thumb at the same time, you can see it right here coming across and attaching at the posterior lateral surface of the lower middle ulna. And then the last one is the extensor pollicis brevis, and it's almost the same general pattern, except it's attaching at the radius. So it's coming up, and instead of attaching over here, it's attaching right here, which makes sense because it's more brief than the longer muscle. So up, extended, coming and attaching brevis longus.